learner. Okay, we are recording. Welcome everyone to February 11th edition of the PCOM Libraries Lunch and Learn. I'm Kevin Bradford, the Research and Writing Support Librarian based out of the Georgia campus at Sewanee. So welcome everyone and thank you for attending the Lunch and Learn. We're going to have a quick walkthrough with two of the premier flagship writing tools provided to you by PCOM. So I have a brief 3-slide PowerPoint to start. After that, I'm just going to go hands-on through the two resources we're discussing. So I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully y'all will be able to see that. Okay, you should see an initial title screen and PCOM Library Lunch and Learn with my name and my email address as well for your contact information. So what we're going to discuss today, or actually demonstrate and familiarize yourselves with two resources: Grammarly, which is an online writing assistant, and Academic Writer, which is also a similar type of tool. So they have some similarities as well as some special differences and purposes as well. So I was going to start out with Academic Writer, but I switched to Grammarly instead because Grammarly is ubiquitous. Once you've installed it on your computer in your browsers, it shows up practically everywhere. And sometimes people like that. Sometimes people want to know how to turn it off. So actually, I'm starting the presentation with a slide on how to turn off Grammarly. So Grammarly, too much of a good thing. I've got a URL link here to Grammarly's support, which gives instructions for you how to turn off the Grammarly browser extension in the different browsers, your Google Chrome, your Firefox. I haven't actually used those instructions because I've gotten used to the little Grammarly icon spinning around in the browser, so I haven't actually used it and turned it off. So, but if it annoys you enough that you want to turn it off, you should be able to follow those instructions. So. Okay, that is it for my huge 3-screen PowerPoint. I'm going to now take us to the Grammarly tool. Okay, you should see, if you click on New in the documents, this is where you can start your writing. But before we go there, you've got different samples of papers that can help you do your planning for your writing. You can also upload an existing document. Word documents, text files can be imported into your working template. So you would add a title here. If I can only type. Right. Let's see if I can move that out of the way. So you can set your goals. Look at all suggestions. Look for correction, clarity, engagement, delivery. You can also check for plagiarism. And in your menu, you can start a new document. You can upload a file. You can also download. Excuse me. So I'm going to copy paste some text out of a biomedical journal that I located, and I thought that would be useful for the demonstration here. So here's your set goals. And so, of course, Grammarly is not going to write your paper for you. It's going to give you a series of suggestions that you have to work through. You can either ignore them, or you can work with the settings to amend and edit your paper. So this that I copied and pasted is, as I mentioned, from a biomedical journal. So it's going to be, the default is knowledgeable, and then there's general and expert. It's certainly not going to be a general audience who's going to be reading this. It's certainly going to be a knowledgeable audience, but it also could be maybe an expert audience, depending upon the topic and the material in the journal. So I would say, we can change it to expert. It may require rereading to understand, which I think is certainly true of most biomedical journals. Your formality. Certainly when you're talking about a biomedical journal or a health sciences paper, you're not going to be writing anything informal. The only informal writing you might be doing is writing your draft for acceptance into medical school. Your personal statements would be somewhat informal, but everything else you're writing in medical school is going to be probably on the formal side of things. So formal will restrict your slang and your colloquialisms and your contractions, like don't, D-O-N apostrophe T. So that should take care of that. Your domain. Well, we would probably pick academic in this case. Tone, well, that's kind of subjective somewhat. When you think about scientific writing, do you want your paper to sound joyful for a scientific journal? I would hope your answer would be no. So we know it's not that. Neutral, confident, analytical could be a choice. You could be confident in terms if you're writing a scientific paper, which is arguing a point, and you're confident in your thesis, and you want to convey the confidence in your knowledge, you could use maybe a confident tone. So, and what is your intent? What is your intent for writing? Inform, describe, convince, tell a story. If you're writing a paper with a thesis, certainly you want to inform and describe, but a thesis is essentially you're trying to convince your audience that your thesis is valid. So I would try that, and then click done. And then you'll have a whole menu full of writing suggestions. Conciseness, certain points of standard grammars, and then your overall score. So if we leave this piece of writing as it is, we've mostly achieved our goal based upon our settings from before that we just went through. Our confident tone, we're writing formally, et cetera, et cetera. So it looks like we've mainly achieved our goal. There's just a few things that Grammarly is saying we need to do. Correctness is one alert, and you can see that it's linked here, color-coded, and there's something wrong with that, or it wants us to pay attention to that. Conciseness, engagement is good, delivery is good, style is good. So now, the adding a comma after and, back when I was first going through school and English classes in high school and in college, I know I'm dating myself a little bit here, but it wasn't common to put commas after ands. However, the rules have changed in subsequent years, along with two spaces after a period that's no longer valid. There's only one space after a period, and there's generally a comma after and. So you can add the comma there, and you can see it will automatically correct it. So, and it's asking us to remove the phrase in. So in most cases, Grammarly is pretty good, but you can't surrender your knowledge and your writing experience to Grammarly because it's not always correct and it's not always in context. So I would hesitate to suggest, even remotely, that you can totally rely upon this tool and let it basically run your paper for you. So let's just read this. It's saying that in should be removed. This was the first scientific definition of sepsis proposed by Dr. Schultmuller in 1914. We don't really want to remove that because Dr. Schultmuller in 1914 is not, that's not a proper sentence. So we need the in. So Grammarly is wrong there. So now it's next saying that this sentence, starting with thus and ending with years, needs to be rephrased. So it's giving you some, if you click on that, it'll give you some examples of what it's talking about. So it is saying to cut some words. Thus, bloodstream infection or bacteremia was a condition for sepsis diagnosis, and this definition did not change significantly over the years. You don't lose any meaning at all. That's the first key in accepting a Grammarly suggestion. So it's coherent and grammatically correct. So we can go ahead and use that suggestion. Now, it's saying to rewrite this. Sepsis, septicemia, and bloodstream infections were considered to refer to the same clinical conditions. So what's it want us to do? Okay, it's telling us that this is passive voice. Now, when you write your scientific papers, almost universally, in terms of academics, your instructors, your professors, your preceptors will want you to write your papers in active rather than passive voice. Passive voice tends to be things that, ways of stating things that are in the past, or things aren't really actively being done at the moment. And journals also want you to write in the active voice as well. So pay attention to active and passive. If you're describing, say, for instance, in a paper, you're writing a methodology section, in many cases, passive voice, you really can't get away from that because you're describing things that occurred in the past. But that would probably be the one exception to the rule in terms of generally writing your papers in active voice for scientific and academic papers. So it's saying passive voice. Consider writing in the active voice. Here, it does not give you an actual choice. So I would look at this and say, how do I change passive to active? That's, of course, a grammatical question. You could do, oops, see if that works. Yeah. So that will change the tense out of passive there. So no, it won't. It's telling me no. It blinked and then said no. So anyway, I'm going to leave that for the grammaticians later on, but because this is just a demonstration of the tool that it's available rather than an actual a lesson in such. So we're just going to go right by. Again, here's another passive voice. Consider writing in the active voice. Let's see if that works. Still doesn't like that. It's a challenge. It still doesn't like that. So at any rate, you have to kind of puzzle it through. Like I say, Grammarly doesn't write it for you. You have to think these things through. So, and it may be that the nature of your writing, like I said, if it's a methodology section, you won't be able to really write active voice. But at any rate, that's one of the tools that it will do for you. So overall, with the corrections that they asked for us, the ones that we actually did something with, that we didn't stumble over in terms of like the passive voice, we went from a 95 to a 98. So we did dust it up a little bit and improve that statement a bit. So that's essentially how to use Grammarly. Grammarly also will work, as I said, it will work behind the scene in your browsers without even necessarily even asking you. And I'm thinking in particular of Google Chrome and Outlook, the mailer. It runs in your Outlook mailer behind the scenes, and so as you're drafting and composing your messages, you will see the little Grammarly icon come up with a bunch of suggestions if you click on it. Otherwise, you'll just see the little Grammarly icon. So again, if that annoys you, if you don't want to use it, you can turn that feature off. So all right, it is now 12:18 and we have to really move along. I find I just get started when it's over. 30 minutes, it goes pretty quickly. So I am now going to switch over to Academic Writer. Should be able to go backwards here. I wanted to show you the front end of this. Oops. Okay. Access both of these, by the way, through the library website, and they're both listed within the databases. Academic Writer is here. Grammarly is also in here as well. So when you're setting these up and working with them initially, go through the A to Z database list to locate those. It is a little bit, Academic Writer is a little bit on the slow side because it authenticates through EBSCO. Excellent, great. This is where I wanted us to start with, is at the front page. So, Academic Writer consists of three main sections. There's the Learn tab, the References tab, and then the Writing tab. Academic Writer really is a wonderful and complete guide for the American Psychological Association, or APA's 7th edition of their writing guide for scientific papers. And so the great thing of it is that you don't have to buy guides, folks. The library has provided Academic Writer and which is a built-in tool for APA. So this is a fabulous, fabulous tool. It'll take the guesswork out of APA for you. There are, of course, the tools if you wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of how do you cite a certain piece of information that you're going to use in your papers. We have that in the Learn section, and I'll tell you all about the different components of APA's writing style. You can go to sample papers and look those up. If you click on those, you're only going to get the title page. You have to actually, they don't have the whole samples uploaded to their site. You have to download the whole sample paper if you want to look at anything other than the title page. So, thing to be aware of, if we want to look at samples, you have to download them all. Now, in quick guides, there's some interesting things that you have access to here. Bias-free language is very, very interesting, and pretty much all of these, except for one item, I'd seen before, of course, and I'm familiar with. I'm like, what is intersectionality? So I had to click on that and figure out what the heck that was. Again, it's a little on the slow side. So you'll have a PowerPoint where it talks about the different topics, what these are. So intersectionality refers to the way in which individuals are shaped by and identify with their cultural, structural, social, biological, economic, and social milieu. Basically, it's sociological nature. So it's how individuals fit with and react to interplay with their environments. So you've learned a new word today. The word of the day is intersectionality. So another useful tool is the writing style. And if you have anthropomorphism is making things, animals into humans, writing language like, oh, my cat really thought that was not an appropriate thing for me to do. That would be an example of anthropomorphism. And if your instructors tell you in the feedback of your paper was lacking clarity, it wasn't concise enough, there's something you need to work with the tone, you need to work with maybe the verb tense. So I've clicked on verb tense here. Wait a second for that to load. So here's the overview of what verb tense is. So you can look up these terms that your professor is telling you is wrong, something is wrong with your paper. Appropriateness of tense. Use the following examples. Verbs are highlighted in yellow. So this will help you differentiate between past tense, present, and future tenses as well. So grammatical tips for when you get your feedback. So this is a great tool. You can also contact me, and I can help you with that as well. So I've overviewed a lot of papers in the year I have been here with PCOM. So, and then we have a reference section, and this, of course, is where you would import or load in your references. So I don't have any references here. I cleaned everything up for the demo here. I'm going to add a reference, my very first reference to the library. Now you have choices. You can import a reference or you can search for one. But of course, this search is only going to search, what do you think? The APA's journal only. It's not a PubMed search. It's not a full database search. It's just the search of the APA's journal. So this right here is a beautiful thing that we're looking at here. Select a reference type to get started. This will format whatever material that you're using perfectly for APA 7. So you don't need to go through a manual, flip through the index and look and see, well, does what I have here fit within that particular rubric, within that particular style guide. So it looks like there's a question maybe. I'm going to carry on, and I'll hold questions until the end unless there's something wrong technically. Otherwise, if it's a question about the material, we'll cover that shortly. It's 12:25, so I'm going to break pretty soon. I just get carried away by this stuff because I enjoy it so much, and it's really fun to do. So here are all of these templates, built-in templates for you. I'm going to do a quick search, a basic search for PTSD. Show you how this works. Here's the APA Psych Info database. Articles on PTSD. If I select a couple, and let's see, I guess that's good. All right. Right. Okay. Oops, I'm sorry. Lost my place here. and let's add to my references. References added. So if you go up into your file cabinet, I don't know why that's not working. It'll list your references. It'll also give, if it's working properly, if you've got any paper drafts, it'll show that as well. So we'll go into the Writing Center. You can either start a new paper or work on an existing one. And then here, this is also another really great tool. If you've been given an assignment to write a case study, lit review, a lot of beginning students, they'll be asked to write reaction papers. These are your personal opinions. They'll help you develop your critical writing skills. They want you to write, just report original research, and then from a single experiment. Any of these types of assignments will give you a template. So I'm going to click on literature review. Oh, this is really freezing up on me, apparently. Well, I apologize for that. That's probably why I couldn't pull down my file cabinet. Looks like, yeah, some sort of issues. I apologize, but at any rate, we'll have to move on because it's now 12:28. So I have used up all of my time. I've really enjoyed it. So I am going to unshare my screen here, and I'm going to open up the floor for questions. I hope that this is useful to you guys. And you're certainly welcome to unmute and ask any questions, any comments.
Hi, Kevin. You had mentioned that Academic Writer is free for PCOM, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So how do you just get to it by the link that you showed us here, or
Right,
do you get to it?
right. Go through the library's A to Z databases list, and there's a top tab for databases, and you pull that down. Academic Writer, I think, is number 2 on the list. It's an alpha list. So when you initially use both of these tools, go through the library page. That's for authentication purposes, and then you can set up your account. For Academic Writer, you don't need an account. It's single sign-on. And Grammarly as well will activate once you've set that up. It's very, very easy setup. There are setup instructions on the web page, as well as on the library homepage. There's a services tab way over kind of toward the right, and that's in a LibGuide. And if you scroll down there, it'll give you a screenshot by screenshot how to set up for Grammarly, for your Grammarly account. Academic Writer, as I mentioned, doesn't really need one. You have to go through the library webpage. I set up an account, and all of these resources behave a little bit differently in terms of authentication. But when I went to use my account and try to go directly through Academic Writer, it didn't recognize me. But when I went through the library's instance of Academic Writer, it recognized me, and it was seamless from there. And I was having no problem with it until just a couple minutes ago, when it seems to have frozen up a bit. So that's kind of what I would recommend. Start with the A to Z list, set up your personalized accounts from there. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Well, I thank everybody for attending. It's been enjoyable for me. I love these types of tools. Anything to do with writing or language is just really exciting for me. And I'm very, very excited to have presented these tools for you guys. it demystifies the process, particularly when you're writing in an academic style like APA. It can be very, very daunting, but their templates make it so easy. So thank you again for attending the Lunch and Learn. I hope you guys have a great afternoon. If you've got any questions, let me just once more give you my email address in the text box. And I apologize for it freezing up a little bit on me, but that's kind of how it goes. There's always a little bit of a mystery in online work. Thanks again, guys, and you have a great afternoon. And I'm going to close now. Stop the recording.
Thank you.
You are welcome.